So I just want to make a quick little video here on this Bobcat 642B gearbox, chain case, whatever you want to call it. I bought this Bobcat right here, threw an engine in it, went with a little Isuzu diesel over here, modified the flywheel, and I actually had to cut the bell housing back a little bit because it wouldn't fit, but it fits perfectly, runs great. And yeah, I bought this thing not running. It actually had no engine in it. The guy gave me an engine that he had for it. Originally, this comes with a gas engine. He actually gave me a Nissan 4-cylinder diesel rated at about 60 horsepower. It was too big for it. So I decided to throw this Isuzu in instead because it's actually fits pretty well in there. But yeah, she's getting repainted and redone and everything. But when we went to move it, there was a lot of clanking and banging and all, and this was the source of it. And I figured between he bought it from an auction, an online auction, and I figured between whoever trying to move it while it was down, did a number in that chain case. You can see these chains here. This is, I think, the only one. Yeah, this is the only one right here that was connected. And I was able to fire it up and run the motors, and I know both motors were spinning because when I would engage the right side, you heard the chain was still somewhat wrapped on there, and you could hear it. And then the left side actually was spinning on the front wheel, which was the chain that was good. But anyway, you could see how these chains snapped, and I'm assuming they snapped from them dragging it, trying to move it around at the auction and whatnot. I checked out the sprockets. Sprockets actually look pretty good, so that's good. Everything else looks all right. The bearings definitely need to be changed, which is another reason I'm pulling the axles other than to get the chains out. Normally, you don't have to pull the axles to get the chains out, but this is something I wanted to specifically make this video really for, is the problem I ran into. Let me just grab my flashlight here. Is now I already started pulling this sprocket and this axle, so it's going to look a little off. But what happened was when the chain broke, it bunched up in the back here. Let me see if I can get this in there. So see how it bunched up back there? But there's such little clearance between the sprocket and the case that once it bunched up there, there's no way in hell you're getting this thing out unless you get in there and somehow cut down the chain and break it apart. Now this happened on all three of them, okay? Because like you said, the one that went from here to there was fine. I'm still replacing it, still doing axle seals and bearings because half this chain case was full of water. At first I was wondering, okay, maybe it came in the top cover, whatever. No way. When I pulled, I mean, it could have also, but when I pulled these axles out, water actually came pouring out of the tubes into the case, and there was a lot in there. Not to mention this is one of the better bearings, and you can see this barely, it's pretty stuck. The rest of them came out with the cage is all messed up, all the rollers are all messed up. So I'm just pulling everything apart. Now, one thing I do want to point out is if you are doing chains, those back ones are a son of a bitch to get to, because the cover's not directly over them. At least with the front ones, you kind of have some room here. And you can sneak the sprocket out through this front one. It's a little difficult, but you can. Now with the motors in, the drive motors, this is what it looks like. And now these just rest on the shaft. And in case you're wondering what this big plate is, this is actually your parking brake. It goes in a guide on here that goes on top, and it just squeezes it. But anyway, so what happens is these sit here. The other one is, obviously flipped with this brake part inward. And all that holds these onto the motors is their clearance between the two. And they'll touch a little and all. But the point I'm getting at is you won't be able to work on the rear chain case at all with those in place. And you won't be able to pull the sprockets out. So rather than pulling both motors, if you just pull the one motor, which is these 4 bolts on these studs, if you just pull the one motor, you could take everything off or take everything out of here and have perfect access. It's not hard to take, it's not difficult at all to take these motors off, but Just so you know, you could do it right in the machine too. I pulled the chain case out because I figured I'm going to reservice it and, you know, do everything, bearings, seals, all that, and repaint it as well. And yeah, I wasn't sure what I was getting into, so I wanted to pull it out, check everything out. This machine sat for a long time. If you are going to pull the chain case out, one thing you got to keep in mind is obviously you got to support the machine not under the chain case, because originally I had it support on the axles of the chain case. But a couple things you gotta know about this is, number one, you gotta disconnect your hydraulic lines. There's 3 on each motor on this particular machine. You gotta disconnect those. You gotta disconnect. There's 2 bolts, okay, that go through here, and they're actually for part of the hydraulic pump. There's one there, and you can actually see on the chain case where they mount to. One, I got that ratchet strap hooked in, and the other one right there. I don't know if you have to take them out completely, because it looks to me like they just kind of slide. In my case, it looked like I did, so I did. Now, there's one other thing you got to really keep in mind. The rest is self-explanatory. I mean, you just have 4 bolts, 4 bolts, 4 bolts, 4 bolts. These 2 sides of the axles, where they mount the 2 mounts, I actually ended up just cutting the bolts off, and I'm just going to replace them because there was so much crap inside the pan of this thing. I couldn't even get to them. I couldn't see them. I didn't know where they were. And there's still a ton of crap in here. I mean, there's just so much mud, which is another reason I actually wanted to pull it out. And actually, you could see just under the pedals here, I cleaned a lot of it out, but just under the pedals, it's just, I mean, it is packed in there. So anyway, the other thing you gotta get is right here. This is for your, not sure which one it is, but it's the left pedal, and there's a shaft. You have your pedal up here, and as you rock it, there's a lever that goes back to here, then a rock shaft kind of thing here. I know it's not the right term exactly for it, but basically what it does, this pivots like this, and it actuates a valve over here. So there's a bolt and a bushing. You actually can get to this pretty easily, which I didn't know. I pulled the engine out and then I saw it, but it's right under here. This is the bar right here, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's oh yeah, there you go. There's a little bushing that came off of it. Probably should put that somewhere so I don't lose it. But if you could see this hole right here, that rests on. So if you take a wrench, I believe it's 9/16, and just put on there, crank it off, pop it off, and you could drop this thing down. One thing you got to watch out for when you drop it down is if it comes down at an angle, it'll actually hang up on the back of the machine, which I had that problem. There's some plates and stuff back there, and it'll tilt and it'll kind of wedge itself against that. So you got to be careful. You know, you're dealing with heavy stuff and all, but I just kicked the shit out of it, and it finally dropped down. So yeah, so that's where we're at right now, and we'll see how it goes. You know, I wasn't sure if I was going to rebuild the whole thing, bearings and all, but you know what? It's out of the machine. It's getting repainted. It's getting cleaned, and these axles could really use some help. It would really suck to put this machine back together and you know, have that problem. So yeah, we'll let you know how it goes.